With the quiet day two of free agency for the Chicago Bears, it's given a lot of time for reflection. And a lot of people are starting to call the Chicago Bears early winners of free agency. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, why Dayo is actually a really good underrated signing. Plus, the mailbag. All that and more coming right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today and it's time to start reflecting. The Bears free agency, barring any restructured contracts, major trades, the Bears are pretty much done. You're going to see a lot of kind of functional signings maybe between now and the draft. I don't know if you see any major signings anymore for the Chicago Bears. We'll see. Ryan Poles always, he has a trick under his sleeve that he can pull out. But at the end of the day, I think right now you're seeing that the Bears' busy first day was because they went out and Ryan Poles kind of set this up for. He said, once you identify the players, it's about going out there and being aggressive about getting them. And the Bears were extremely aggressive on day one of free agency. The quiet day two shouldn't have been a surprise. The Bears basically used most of their available cap space to go out and get the guys that they got. They also made precursor trades, before the draft that took up some of their cap space. And the Bears now are in a really good spot. And let's talk about the way that the Bears maneuvered this free agency, making trades for Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, I should say, getting those two guys in the building, two guys that are immediate starters on your team at the guard position. You now got your two new starting guards, right? And then you went out on day one of free agency. Within the first hour of free agency, you got Drew Dalman in there, who was the best center out on the open market. Again, another starter for you immediately. Let's not overlook the fact that we traded for Durham Smythe as well to be that tight end for the Chicago Bears, who specializes in blocking, but also could still be used in the pass game. Then, with the defensive trenches, right, the Bears went out and got Dayo Odeyingbo, and they got Dayo in here to pair with Montez Sweat on the opposite side of that, which you have an amazing call from Darius in regards to why Dayo could see even more production on the Chicago Bears. Just a hint, and I'm going to let him cook on the voicemail, but Dayo played in a 3-4. You're now moving that to a 4-3, which means he's going to be going from playing outside linebacker to defensive end. Keep in mind, the sacks at outside linebacker are going to be completely different at the opportunities he's going to have now playing as an actual edge in a 4-3 base scheme, which is going to be huge for the Chicago Bears. Then the Bears also went out and got Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle, a player that wasn't initially even supposed to be out on the free agent market. He got cut earlier the day one in free agency. The Bears went aggressive about going out and getting him, locked him into a contract on day one. The Bears, rightfully so, are being praised for the moves that they've made so far in free agency because it's brought about the direction, the focus that the Chicago Bears have been lacking in their moves. They've addressed. We knew that the trenches were what the Bears needed to focus on. You can get still a lot in the draft, right? The Bears still have a lot of draft picks to go out and get things done. You have to. With Caleb Williams, 68 sacks last year, right? To Caleb Williams, 68. So you had to rebuild the trenches, right? And that's not to say that Caleb Williams still doesn't have things he individually needs to work on as a quarterback. Absolutely. He's in year 2. He absolutely has big things that he needs to work on to become a better quarterback in this league. But one thing that the Bears have done is they've improved the people in front of him that are going to be protecting him. Now, you're going to get some depth here in the draft as well. We'll see what happens there, overall in the draft. But I tell you what, man, the Chicago Bears and the way that they've maneuvered this offseason, especially when you hear that Drew Dalman took less to become a member of the Chicago Bears, I tell you what, man, the Bears got 3 new starting offensive linemen and within a couple of days, within a week span, basically. That is the focus that we've needed. And whether it's Ben Johnson and his ability to help identify things and help bring a vision to the Chicago Bears, and pair that with Ryan Poles, and when he does have the vision and knows what he needs to go out there and get, how aggressive he can be, whether it's Ryan Poles realizing his own mistake on what he did and not shoring up the offensive line sooner. The Chicago Bears went out there and they got that. They shored that up, right? And it's listen, we've said it before, right? The quote that we've had, it's not impossible to remake an offensive line in one season, and the Bears did that. Now, a lot of these guys are Drew Dalman's locked in. Jonah and Thuney are both only here for 1 year, basically, under the current contracts that they have. So the Bears can't rest completely on their laurels, but now having an ability to just have a better expectation for your team heading into this upcoming season than what you did last season, you've done it, right? You've done it. And Ben Johnson, more than anybody, understands the importance of having the right people there in your building, the right players there that need to block for your quarterback, to have the right scheme there, right? How important an offensive line is to all of that, right? So at least right now on paper, the Chicago Bears have turned one of their weaknesses into a strength on paper, right? And the thing that I've been saying for so long that still matters with this team is you still got to see it done in reality. You still have to see it happen actually in fruition. You can't just go off of winning it on paper. It's good to hear people like Amon St. Brown talk about the Bears acting like they have unlimited money and the fact of what they've been able to do. But from the season end to where the season is now, the Chicago Bears have drastically improved the state of this team again on paper, right? There's still more mad reason for doubt. And let nobody make you feel wrong for having some doubt still around this team, because there is still reason for legitimate doubt around this team because we haven't seen it yet, right? We have not seen it yet. But I think overall, there's still a chance that the Bears and what they've done here cannot be overlooked. It cannot be understated. The Bears have done what all you can do in the offseason is improve on paper, right? You can get the right people in the building for them to help improve where you are as a team. But overall, man, I tell you what, I love what the Bears have done on paper so far. Ryan Poles, if the goal was improving the offensive line, the trenches overall, Ryan Poles has done that. And Odeyingbo as well, and what he brings to this team potentially as far as coming over here as well with a scheme switch and how that can help get the most out of him as a player. I tell you what, man, that's really damn good, man. So the Bears sit in a really good spot right now. I do think that the Bears still absolutely can address the defensive line further in the draft. Yes, you have Odeyingbo in here. You have Montez Sweat. You still got Austin Booker in here. You got Daniel Hardy. Hell, Dominique Robinson, I think, is still technically under contract as well right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually gets cut personally. But we'll see what the future does hold for that. But I think overall the Bears have done a really damn good job of turning some of their weaknesses into strengths. And there's still another option that sits out here for the Chicago Bears that can make this offseason even better as well. And the other thing that could come and help the Chicago Bears out is we don't know what the future is holding for Tevin Jenkins right now, right? So far, what we've heard right now is that the Bengals have been the team that's only been reported as having interest in Tevin Jenkins, right? They have a need at guard, right? And, we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. But I think that there's still some chance right now that Tevin Jenkins may come back on a 1-year deal right now, right? Reportedly, there are some thoughts around it that Tevin Jenkins projections have him going around $13 million on his next contract, right? But I don't think that that's necessarily true, right? We'll see what happens. But right now, the Chicago Bears, especially if Tevin Jenkins does leave, we'll see what happens there. The Bears could definitely get a compensatory pick. You look at the players right now that could get the Chicago Bears two signings right now. The counts against the compensatory pick formula for the Bears are Darrell Taylor, right? He canceled one of them out when he signed a deal with Houston, and it leaves Tevin Jenkins as well. That if he signs a deal upwards of $5 million, it can cancel that out also, right? So there's still things. What happens here? We'll see what happens. If Tevin Jenkins does sign for a deal above that, the Bears could get a compensatory pick for Tevin Jenkins. And I still think that, if Tevin Jenkins doesn't find the market that he wants, still may be a chance that he comes back to Chicago. Now, I think that the most likely scenario is Tevin Jenkins is done, right? I think that that's done. But don't overlook the case right now that if Tevin Jenkins signs a deal with another team for at least $5 million per year, I think that there are some thoughts that the Bears could get a compensatory pick in the Bears. So we'll see what happens, man. we'll see what happens. The Bears also, we can't sign any other players that count against the formula as well. But, not to say that you should make any plans for compensatory picks, but, we'll see what happens there. If the Bears get some compensatory picks in here, it'll be for next season. I wouldn't mind the Bears getting it, man. So we'll see what happens. Poles likes a willing deal. So if you get anything back as far as a compensatory pick, if it works out for the Bears, it works out for the Bears. But overall, the way that this free agency has been maneuvered by the Chicago Bears, the way things have happened, I like the signings more and more. The where I go out and watch these guys tape, Grady Jarrett brings such a dog mentality that's needed for this Chicago Bears team as well. The Bears are getting dogs in here. And how things continue to go, how they grow, that's going to be a fun thing to watch for the Chicago Bears team. But I want to get into the voicemail bag a little bit. Let's get into these, man. This one's from Darnell.
What up, CBC? It's Darnell calling here from Utah again. I just had a thought. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what do you think about if the Bears traded back from 10, say with maybe like Denver? I think Denver has like the 20th pick. What if we trade the 10th pick with them because they really need a running back? I guess that's saying if Genty's still available. Trade that pick with them to try to get an additional pick and then maybe go for like an O'Mary and Hampton at that pick. I think that is something that we should consider. I think running back's a big need for us. But in this draft, I don't think it's necessary to take one with the 10th overall pick if, specifically if Genty is available. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate y'all. Bear down.
Trading back is an absolute option for the Chicago Bears. Now, we'll see how realistic of an option that is for the team, but it is an absolute option for the Bears here, right? I think it comes down to a few things. It comes down to two evaluations. How does Ryan Poles evaluate the talent that he can get by trading down, right? Does he, for example, in your scenario, I'll just use your scenario for this one. In potentially trading back and letting another team get Genty, him getting Hampton, it will come down to the evaluation he has and the gap between Genty and Hampton that Poles has. Not what we have as fans, but what Poles has between those two players. And then as well as how does the compensation he gets back for trading back also play into that evaluation, right? That's the biggest thing here in Poles' evaluation and potentially trading back. Yes, it's an option, but I think it's going to be an evaluation of the assets and the players that you feel like you can get there. It's definitely, and not even necessarily just for running back. Like I said, you can get Quashon Judkins later in this draft, right? He's a guy that you can get later. I think either of the Ohio State running backs really can you can make a case for him. So, this is a running back deep draft. So if Poles is willing to trade back, right? So another team could get Genty. It comes down to those two evaluations. How he evaluates that, I think, is going to determine what happens there with the number 10 overall pick. But it's an absolute chance that the Bears do trade back. But then again, we're waiting. It's going to be a long process to wait between now and then for us to see exactly how that's going to shake out. But we'll see. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas. I just wanted to call in after I had more of an opportunity to look at that Dayo kid. Not even going to try to pronounce his last name. C-Dub, you don't even try either. Let's just sit this one out. Because Lord knows what the hell you're going to come up with for this boy's last name. So C-Dub, sit out on this one. Let Hayes do the last name. For anybody of African descent, not African American, of African descent, because we just know that that's going to end in disaster for you. You're my boy, but don't even try to pronounce his name. Anyway, yeah, man, I saw that it looked like he was in a 3-4 in Indy. All right. So when I saw that, I had to kind of look at him through a different light now. All right. Because we look at the big contract and we look at, okay, he only had 3 sacks last year, but, being a 3-4 defensive end, getting those sacks is a lot. It looks a lot better than being a 3-4. This guy was a 3-4 outside linebacker and still only had 3 sacks. So there's a possibility that they looked at this kid and they said, okay, he just needs to be in the right position. He was playing out of position with the Colts, and maybe if we slide him to a 4-3 defensive end primarily, he's going to increase his numbers. Sort of like what Ryan Pace did with looking at Akeem Hicks when we brought him in. we saw that, damn, man, they've been putting this kid as a 4-3 DN, and he's big as hell. He ain't working. They slid him inside, got in that Vic Fangio defense at the 3-4, and then look what happened. He was a guy who was playing out of position that, the GM, he made a lot of dumb decisions, but at least with Akeem Hicks, he was smart enough to see that all we got to do is put him in the right position, and then he's going to take off. So I'm hoping it's the same thing with Dayo. Getting, those type of pressures, those type of hurries, those type of quarterback hits from primarily a 3-4 defensive end. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong on that. That's just from what I saw so far and what I've looked up and read on him. Being able to make those kind of numbers from a 3-4 defensive end, guys, if he is primarily on the outside now because we got a Grady Jarrett supporting him, because we got a Billings supporting him, because we got Dexter over there supporting him, and with Montez on the other end, he's probably going to look more like that natural pass rusher that's going to give you 10 sacks a game. 10 sacks a year. But let me know what y'all think, man. Text us up there now.
Amazing call on the 3-4 scheme to a 4-3 scheme. Amazing call on that. I can't stress that enough. You just hit the nail on the head. And honestly, I'm surprised with how analytical Steve-O is. Steve-O isn't one of the ones to pick up on that, because that is the type of thing that Steve-O usually calls out, right? And that's not a slight to Steve-O. And, we were all kind of shocked as well by that signing, and still kind of gathering about the player, much less kind of the scheme fit. I don't think we had time to really evaluate that at the time, but that's an amazing call out, because scheme does matter a lot when you're talking about how productive an edge can be as far as getting sacks. But then again, like I said before, and I pointed out about Dayo as well, like, it's not just about the sacks. So often we look at it with just the sacks number, right? I think it's about pressures. It's about a lot of things that should go into the evaluation of an edge. But then when you factor in as another layer on that, on top of that, you can factor in the scheme question. Darius, you may have just broke the code there, my brother. You may have just broke the code on how the Bears use this, and comparing that to Hicks, right, I think is another great call out on that, because we've seen an example here in Chicago of a player that moves from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and how much that can highlight some of the skills that they bring there, right? How that can make some of the skills there even more poignant for the team that acquires them because of that scheme switch. So I think that's a huge and an amazing call out there, Darius. And listen, Dayo has a chance to really shine and turn some heads for the Chicago Bears. And I think that he's a player that is, when you look at this kid's tape, even taking the scheme and all that out of the equation, just looking at this kid's tape, he has a motor. He's young, has tremendous upside. The scheme thing now that you threw into that, listen, Dayo has the chance, I think, to be one of those players that Bears fans are like, interesting signing here I don't know a lot about, to, oh my God, I'm so happy he's in the Chicago Bears uniform. And I love to get those players in here, because that's the time period where as fans, we all kind of, beat our chest a little bit that we got a guy that we didn't necessarily expect to have that level of impact. So great call out there, Darius. All right, let's get into the last one for today. This one's from Jay.
Hey, J-Rod here, man. Great fucking way to start my Monday. Looking at the Bears, the moves the Bears made, man. This is absolutely amazing. But I don't know if you're a wrestling fan. I know Steve-O is a fan, so this one's for you, brother. This offseason, this draft night is going to remind me of what WrestleMania is going to look in the next month or so. It's so unpredictable. John Cena's a heel. Bianca Belair might win women's championship. Jade Cargill is trying to kick everybody's ass. You don't know what the hell might happen in WrestleMania. And that's the way I'm feeling about this draft night. Honestly, it's crazy. Like, with all the moves that are made, Ben Johnson and that team have now gotten Drew Dalman, Dayo, and Grady Jarrett in the free agency, not to mention the moves that they made through trades. Anything can happen in this draft. We don't know what the hell might happen, but it's all going to make us happy. You know what I mean? We can go running back. That's completely fine, because now we kind of bolstered our offensive line to look a little bit better than what it was last year. Actually, a lot bit better than it was last year. Let's be honest. We were playing with a bunch of middle school players, it seemed like, not even high school varsity. These guys were just not. We kept Braxton Jones, but even if we go offensive tackle in the draft, that's cool. We still got Braxton Jones, who will come off well on the bench and can pick up almost any place on the line except for really center. I don't know if we tried him at center. Either way, we know that he can play guard. We know that he can play tackle if anybody gets. offensive move. We can go defensive. We can go tackle or defensive end still and get ourselves a young player to come in and maybe fill up some spots, learn from some veteran players, and still continue to grow on our defense. We can get anything that we want at this point, and with this number 10, we can trade the pick and maybe get something if we have enough money in our capital. I'm not quite sure what we're looking like after this free agency, but even if we have that little bit of money left, we may be able to even trade down or trade out of the top 10 or lottery just to see if we can get ourselves even more players worth the starting positions and make this team even deadlier. And we'll still have an early second round pick or maybe 2 early second round picks depending on if we have to trade any of those away to get a player either. But we don't even have to do that. Anything that happens with this draft is gonna be a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love every move that was made in this free agency. I absolutely love every move that was made in this offseason. This is how you build a team. Let's start with the people at the helm who's going to control the plays. Let's get the best head coach in the game and let him bring in his team, which is some of the best people that we've seen, championship caliber coaching team. Then we start working on the trenches on both sides, make them both really good. So when they compete against each other.
First of all, comparing the draft to Mania is crazy, but you're right. The draft is absolutely going to be wild because there's so many different routes. You look at Vegas getting Geno, right, and how that's changed the projections around, even maybe Genty not falling past them, right? Like it's the draft is going to be fun. The draft is always fun because there's always teams that are willing and dealing. But I think when you look at free agency, a lot of teams have put themselves, the Bears included, have put themselves in a position that they can go best available. They can do some creative things, right? There's still going to always be the teams that have their absolute needs that they have in the draft that they have to address early on. But the Bears have freed themselves up to be a lot more creative in that as well. So I agree with you. This is going to be a fun time as Bears fans, and it's going to be a very fun draft, right? And as far as your last point, the growth of the O-line should be night and day for the Chicago Bears this year. Night and day O-line differences, man. And I think that we're in store for such a difference on what that O-line does for Caleb Williams this year compared to last year. And let's hope that it just continues to go that way, man. But Ryan Poles has done his work. Ben Johnson has done his work. And now we get to reap the benefits of it, of hopefully having a formidable offensive line that we're looking at and saying, yeah, they're protecting our quarterback. They're opening up things in the run game, right? They're not limiting that part. You don't want, and like I said yesterday at the start of the season, the last thing you want is a potential high-powered offense with all talent that's limited by an offensive line. On paper right now, Ryan Poles has solved that. Let's go out and see if it's going to be done on the football field. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.